The only rust on this thing is this tiny little spot on the tailgate. A little surface rust right there, but it's all solid metal. And then along in the front, this thing just has awesome originality. The main purpose, again, is just it's got a just amazing body and interior on this truck.
Before the world of trucks filled up with computers, fragile sensors, and luxury-level interiors, manufacturers built machines with a simpler purpose: work hard and last forever. The trucks built before 2000 were the definition of rugged utility. Big steel frames, simple engines, easy maintenance, and parts that could be found at nearly every corner shop. They weren't designed to be disposable or dependent on expensive dealer visits. Instead, they were built to endure hundreds of thousands of miles on farms, job sites, and highways. Many of these trucks are still rolling today, decades after their debut, proving that toughness isn't about flashy horsepower numbers or fancy tech. It's about reliability, durability, and a design philosophy that emphasized longevity over luxury. In this list, we'll explore 12 trucks from before the turn of the century that refused to die, and exactly why they've earned their legendary status on the road. Number 12. Toyota T100, 1993 to 1998. When Toyota rolled out the T100 in the early 1990s, it was stepping into uncharted territory. The company had mastered compact pickups with the Hilux and the smaller Toyota pickup, but the American market was demanding something larger, something that could compete with Ford, Chevy, and Dodge in the full-size arena. The result was the T100, a mid to full-size pickup that didn't dominate sales, but developed a cult following for one simple reason: it lasts forever. The T100 came with several engine options, the most famous being the bulletproof 3.4-liter V6, 5VZFE. Known for its balance of power and longevity, this engine was already earning a reputation in Toyota's SUVs, and in the T100, it proved equally indestructible. Even the smaller 2.7-liter four-cylinder and the earlier 3.0 V6 could rack up massive mileage with basic maintenance. Owners frequently reported 300,000 to 400,000 miles on the odometer without any major rebuilds. Part of the T100's staying power comes from its simplicity. The drivetrain was straightforward. Transmissions, particularly the 5-speed manuals, were overbuilt, and Toyota's engineering focused on reliability over innovation. While critics at the time said it wasn't powerful enough compared to Detroit's big V8 trucks, that restraint helped keep the engines stress-free, giving them longer lifespans. The T100 also boasted a long bed option, which made it especially practical for contractors and farm use. Rust was the biggest enemy of these trucks, particularly in northern climates, but Toyota's body construction held up better than most competitors of the era. With routine rust prevention and timely timing belt changes, the T100 could soldier on indefinitely. Today, finding a well-kept T100 is like stumbling onto a hidden treasure. They might not have the flashiest styling or the biggest towing numbers, but when it comes to trucks that simply won't quit, the Toyota T100 deserves its spot on this list. Number 11. Nissan Hardbody, D21, 1986 to 1997. Few trucks have earned a nickname as fitting as Nissan's D21 Hardbody. Launched in the mid-1980s and running strong well into the 1990s, this compact pickup was built like a brick house, and it lived up to its reputation for toughness in every corner of the world. The D21's square-edged styling gave it an unmistakable look, but under the skin, It was all about strength and reliability. The ladder frame was sturdy, the rear leaf springs handled abuse without flinching, and the simple drivetrain made it easy to keep on the road. Engines like the 2.4-liter KA-24E four-cylinder were virtually unkillable. They weren't fast, but they ran forever, even with questionable maintenance. V6 models using the VG30E added more muscle and proved equally reliable. One of the D21's strongest qualities was its adaptability. It became a favorite for farmers, tradesmen, and off-road enthusiasts alike. The 5-speed manual transmissions are known to outlast the trucks themselves, and even the automatics, while less celebrated, often live surprisingly long lives when serviced properly. Like most trucks of its era, rust was a challenge, particularly on the rocker panels and bedsides. Interior plastics often cracked under sun exposure, and the ride could be stiff when unloaded. But none of that mattered to owners who valued a truck that started every morning and worked hard without complaint. The hardbody also became a global success, cementing its legacy not just in the US, but in markets around the world. Even today, you can find D21s serving as daily drivers, construction site workhorses, or off-road toys. That they're still around in large numbers more than 30 years after launch is proof enough. The nickname hardbody wasn't just clever marketing, it was a promise, and Nissan delivered. Number 10. Ford Ranger, 1983 to 1997. The Ford Ranger was America's answer to the growing appetite for small pickups in the 1980s, and it quickly became one of the most dependable trucks of its time. Designed to be tough, simple, and affordable, the Ranger carved out a reputation that still holds today. These trucks just don't quit. Under the hood, Ford gave buyers plenty of choices. The 2.3-liter Lima four-cylinder became famous for its indestructibility, able to run for decades with basic oil changes and timing belt replacements. The 3.0-liter Vulcan 5.6, while not powerful, built its name on sheer reliability. And the 4.0-liter Cologne 5.6 delivered torque that made the Ranger capable well beyond its size class. Owners routinely report Rangers with 250,000 to 400,000 miles still in regular service. The drivetrain was equally robust. The M5 OD 5-speed manual transmission is practically bulletproof, and even the automatic options could be dependable if maintained. Axles like Ford's 7.5-inch and 8.8-inch rears were over-engineered for the loads these trucks carried, giving them incredible longevity. Of course, like many compact pickups, rust could claim cab corners and bed rails in northern states, and suspension bushings needed regular attention. But mechanically, the Ranger was a tank. Its simplicity made it easy to repair at home, and parts availability remains excellent to this day. Beyond durability, the Ranger also won over owners with versatility. It was compact enough for city driving, yet capable of real work on farms and job sites. The 4x4 models, especially with manual locking hubs, are still prized among off-roaders who appreciate mechanical simplicity. The original Ranger formula worked so well that Ford kept it alive for nearly 2 decades before modernizing it. Even now, you'll find first- and second-gen Rangers faithfully chugging along, proving that toughness isn't about being the biggest. It's about being built right from the start. Number 9. Dodge Ram 2500/3500, 1994 to 1999, 1999. Second-gen Cummins. When Dodge introduced the second-generation Ram in 1994, it changed the game with its big rig styling and rugged stance. But beneath that aggressive look was a heart that would secure the truck's place in history: the Cummins Turbo Diesel. These heavy-duty 2,500 and 3,500 models earned a reputation not just for power, but for outlasting nearly anything else on the road. The 5.9-liter inline-six Cummins diesel was the crown jewel. Known for its cast-iron block, stout crankshaft, and simple mechanical injection in the earlier years, this engine could run seemingly forever with basic care. Stories of Ram diesels pushing past 500,000 miles are common, and many still tow, haul, and work daily with odometers that have rolled over more than once. The inline-six layout also provided durability advantages over V8 diesels, keeping internal stress lower and parts more robust. The transmissions told a different story. The NV45005 5-speed manual is nearly bulletproof, but the automatic options of the era, like the 47RE, were less durable, especially when subjected to heavy towing without upgrades. Still, with fluid changes and careful use, they survived. The axles, particularly Dana 60 fronts and Dana 80 rears, were massively overbuilt and rarely failed. Rust was an issue, especially in the cab corners and wheel arches, but mechanically, the Cummins-powered Rams refused to die. Even gas-powered versions with the 5.2 and 5.9-liter Magnums were dependable, if not quite as legendary. Farmers, construction crews, and long-haul tower owners kept these trucks alive because they were straightforward to maintain, endlessly rebuildable, and unmatched in grunt for their time. Today, these 90s Ram trucks have achieved cult status. Clean examples, especially with the Cummins and a manual transmission, are sought after and often command high prices. They may rattle, they may rust, but they'll outwork just about anything, proving why they deserve a place on this list. Number 8. Chevrolet CK 1500, 1988 to 1998 GMT 400. Chevrolet's GMT 400 CK 1500 trucks, produced from the late 1980s through the 1990s, are widely regarded as some of the toughest half-ton pickups ever made. These trucks represented a step forward in design while keeping the simplicity and ruggedness that made Chevy a household name. At the heart of these trucks were engines like the 4.3-liter V6, the 5.0 and 5.7-liter small block V8s, and later the mighty 7.4-liter big block. The 5.7 Vortec 58 became a fan favorite, offering excellent power for its time while maintaining the legendary reliability of Chevy's small block family. With regular oil changes, these engines could sail well past 300,000 miles, and the 4L60E automatic transmission, while occasionally needing rebuilds, was cheap and easy to service. The 4L80E in heavier-duty versions was virtually indestructible. One of the GMT 400's strengths was its balance between modern and old school. Independent front suspension gave it a smoother ride compared to rivals, but the frame and drivetrain remained stout enough for serious work. Owners loved that these trucks could transition from hauling loads during the week to pulling campers on weekends without missing a beat. Rust did plague some models, particularly in the Midwest and Northeast, where road salt claimed rocker panels and cab corners. Yet countless C/Ks survive with battle scars, still running strong. Interiors were basic but functional, and everything from window cranks to dashboards could be repaired with cheap, widely available parts. The GMT 400 series was so good that even today, they're still daily driven in large numbers, often with odometers north of 250,000. Their straightforward design, massive parts availability, and sheer toughness make them an enduring classic. For many Chevy loyalists, the GMT 400 isn't just a truck, it's the best half-ton ever built. Number 7. Toyota Pickup, Hilux, 1984 to 1995. The Toyota Pickup, known internationally as the Hilux, has one of the most legendary reputations in automotive history. By the mid-1980s and through the 90s, Toyota had perfected the formula for a compact truck that could survive anything, from war zones to farms to off-road expeditions that would leave other trucks broken in the dust. In the US, these trucks came with bulletproof 4 cylinders like the 22R and 22RE. The carbureted 22R was already tough, but the fuel-injected 22RE was even tougher. 22RE took it to another level, with simplicity and reliability that made it nearly impossible to kill. V6 models like the 3.03 VZE were less beloved, but even those could live long lives if cooling issues were addressed. Paired with 5-speed manuals that seemed to last forever, the Toyota Pickup became the gold standard for durability. Owners subjected these trucks to abuse most vehicles wouldn't survive: deep water crossings, desert heat, rocky trails, and overloaded beds. Yet, with little more than oil changes and timing chain care, the 22RE-powered models routinely crossed 300,000 miles. Toyota's use of thick steel frames and rugged solid axles in earlier models only added to the legend. Rust was the Achilles heel, particularly in northern states. Many otherwise perfect trucks were lost to frame corrosion. Yet in drier regions, it's not uncommon to find Toyota pickups still earning their keep decades later. The body panels might be faded and dented, but the engine fires up every time. The legend of indestructibility was cemented when shows like Top Gear tried and failed to kill one. They dropped it, burned it, drowned it, and still it started. That wasn't just entertainment, it was a reflection of what owners around the world already knew. If you want the definition of a truck that refuses to die, the Toyota Pickup is it. Built for work, built for survival, and built to last, it's not just a vehicle. It's a symbol of Toyota's commitment to durability. Number 6. Ford F-250/F-350, 1992 to 1997 OBS Power Stroke. Ford's 9th generation F-Series, often referred to today as the OBS, Old Body Style, cemented its reputation as one of the most durable truck platforms ever built. Produced from 1992 until 1997, these trucks combined heavy-duty construction with engines that were practically immortal. The most famous of all was the 7.3-liter Power Stroke diesel, an engine that is still regarded as one of the toughest diesels in history. The 7.3 Power Stroke wasn't fast, and it wasn't flashy, but it was nearly unbreakable. With a cast-iron block, forged internals, and hydraulically actuated unit injectors, this motor was designed to pull, haul, and keep running no matter what. Owners routinely report these trucks clearing 400,000 to 500,000 miles without major internal work. Even the older 7.3 IDI pre-Power Stroke models had a reputation for being slow but utterly reliable. The drivetrains were equally robust. Manuals like the ZF 5-speed were built to handle serious torque, while heavy-duty automatics could survive if serviced diligently. Ford paired these drivetrains with Dana 60 front axles and Stirling or Dana 80 rears, components that could take years of abuse from heavy loads. Rust was often the limiting factor. Cab corners, fender lips, and floor pans were vulnerable, especially in snow belt states. Still, in drier parts of the country, these trucks remain a common sight. Their boxy styling may look dated today, but the dependability of these trucks makes them desirable to collectors and workers alike. The OBSF 250 and F350 weren't just transportation. They were tools built to outlast their owners. Whether pulling horse trailers, farm equipment, or boats, these trucks did their jobs day after day, and many are still doing it almost 30 years later. That's why the 7.3 Power Stroke era Fords are still considered the gold standard for indestructible workhorses. Number 5. GMC Sierra 2500/3500, 1992 to 1999, GMT 400 HD. Chevrolet's sibling, the GMC Sierra HD lineup of the GMT 400 generation, deserves its own spotlight for one key reason. It represented the perfect marriage of simple design and sheer durability. Built from the early 1990s until 1999, these heavy-duty Sierras often served farms, construction crews, and small businesses where downtime wasn't an option. And thanks to their build quality, many are still on the road today. The Sierra HDs offered multiple engine choices. Gas options like the 5.7-liter small block and 7.4-liter big block were reliable in their own right. But it was the diesels, particularly the 6.5-liter turbo diesel, that set these trucks apart. While not as bulletproof as Ford's 7.3, the 6.5 could rack up serious mileage with proper cooling upgrades and maintenance. More importantly, the simplicity of these trucks meant that even when problems did occur, they were affordable and easy to fix. One of the biggest advantages of the GMT 400 HD trucks was their drivetrain. The 4L80E automatic transmission was virtually indestructible compared to other half-ton gearboxes, and the heavy-duty frames and axles were engineered to take abuse. Many of these trucks spent their lives hauling heavy loads, often overloaded, yet they soldiered on year after year. Rust, again, was the enemy. Northern trucks often lost rocker panels and fenders to corrosion, but the bones of the truck remained solid. Interiors were Spartan but functional, and parts interchangeability across GM's massive lineup meant repairs were never complicated. Today, a well-maintained Sierra HD from the 1990s is a treasure. They don't just survive, they thrive, with many owners reporting 300,000-plus miles on original drivetrains. It's this lasting usefulness that secures their place among the trucks that refuse to die. Number 4. Dodge Dakota 1987 to 1996, first generation. The Dodge Dakota often gets overlooked in conversations about long-lasting trucks, but the first-generation models built from 1987 to 1996 earned a reputation for being surprisingly durable. Positioned between compact pickups like the Ford Ranger and full-size models like the Dodge Ram, the Dakota offered the best of both worlds: maneuverability with real truck capability. Engines played a big role in its toughness. The 3.9-liter V6 was essentially a cut-down version of Chrysler's legendary 318 V8, and it carried much of that engine's bulletproof DNA. Speaking of the 318 5.2-liter Magnum 5.8, it became the workhorse of the Dakota lineup, providing dependable torque and lifespans that easily stretched past 250,000 miles with proper maintenance. For buyers wanting even more muscle, later Dakotas could be optioned with the 5.9 V8, which was equally stout. The Dakota's frames were overbuilt compared to most compacts, giving them the ability to tow and haul beyond what many expected from a mid-sized truck. The manual transmissions were reliable, and even the automatics, while not flawless, held up well if maintained. These trucks were often used hard. Contractors, landscapers, and tradesmen bought them because they could handle abuse, yet cost less than a full size. Rust was an issue on bedsides and floors, especially in the Midwest. Electrical gremlins weren't uncommon either, particularly as these trucks aged. But the mechanical bones were tough, and parts were widely available. As a result, many Dakotas outlived expectations, often working in the background long after flashier trucks had been retired. The Dodge Dakota proved that you didn't need a massive pickup to get serious durability. With stout engines, rugged construction, and a practical size, it carved out a loyal following. Decades later, plenty of first-gen Dakotas still start up and get to work, showing that sometimes the underestimated trucks are the ones that refuse to die. Number 3. Chevrolet Silverado 2500/3500, 1999 to 2000. At the very end of the 1990s, Chevrolet transitioned from the GMT 400 to the GMT 800 platform, and in doing so, launched some of the most legendary heavy-duty trucks ever built. While technically bridging into the new millennium, the 1999 to 2000 Silverado HD lineup deserves recognition because it represented the peak of simple, durable engineering before electronics truly began to dominate. Gas engines like the 6.0-liter Vortec Vive 8 were famously tough. They weren't the most fuel-efficient, but they took abuse without complaint. The 5.3 Vortec, used in lighter trims, also developed a reputation for racking up mileage with little more than oil changes. But the big news was the arrival of the 6.6-liter Duramax diesel, LB7, in 2000. While early injectors sometimes failed, the core engine itself, a joint venture between GM and Isuzu, was immensely strong, with blocks, cranks, and heads designed for long life under extreme loads. The heavy-duty Silverado was paired with the Allison 1000 transmission, a 5-speed automatic that completely changed the game. Unlike older GM transmissions, the Allison was designed for serious towing, and it often lasted as long as the engine itself. This drivetrain combination quickly became legendary among farmers, contractors, and RV haulers who wanted a truck that could pull hard without breaking down. Structurally, the Silverado HD trucks had tough frames and suspension systems that could handle years of heavy-duty work. Rust, as always, was the biggest enemy, particularly in northern states where salt attacked rockers and wheel wells. But mechanically, these trucks proved almost impossible to kill. Even today, late 1990s and 2000 Silverado HD models are prized on the used market. A clean example with the 6.0 Vortec, or early Duramax, is likely still capable of another decade of service. For many truck fans, this generation marked the last analog heavy-duty Chevy before electronics and emissions gear complicated the formula. Number 2. Ford F-150, 1992 to 1996, ninth generation. The Ford F-150 of the early to mid-1990s holds a special place in truck history. It was the ninth generation of the F-Series, and it embodied everything that made Ford's pickups America's best-selling trucks: durability, simplicity, and reliability. Built from 1992 through 1996, these F-150s are still common sights on roads, farms, and job sites nearly 3 decades later. Engines were at the core of the F-150's toughness. The 4.9-liter inline-six was nearly indestructible, famous for its torque and ability to run for 500,000 miles with little more than oil changes and tune-ups. Ford also offered the Windsor V8s, 5.0-liter and 5.8-liter options that provided dependable power. While not fast, they were engineered to last, with basic pushrod designs that resisted failure. Paired with either the robust E4OD automatic or manual gearboxes like the M5OD, these trucks had drivetrains that didn't quit. The F-150's frame was heavy-duty enough for real work, and suspension components were strong and straightforward to repair. Interiors were basic and often Spartan, but that simplicity added to their longevity. Parts were cheap and easy to find, making it affordable to keep them running. Rust was the biggest challenge. Cab corners, floorboards, and fenders often gave way to corrosion, especially in snowy climates. Still, many owners patched them up and kept driving because the mechanical side of the truck rarely gave up. The F-150 of this era also marked the last of the truly boxy Ford pickups, which gives them a nostalgic appeal today. Plenty of these trucks are still on the road with 200,000, 300,000, or even 400,000 miles under their belts. For many families, these trucks served as the do-everything vehicle, hauling trailers, carrying supplies, and commuting, without ever asking much in return. That resilience is why the 9th-gen F-150 remains one of the most beloved and longest-lasting trucks of the pre-2000 era. Number 1. Toyota Land Cruiser 70/80. Series Pickups, 1984 to 1999. When it comes to trucks that simply refuse to die, nothing matches the Toyota Land Cruiser pickup lineage. While in the U.S., they were less common than traditional pickups, globally, the 70 and 80 series Land Cruiser pickups became legendary for their unmatched durability in the harshest environments on Earth. From African deserts to Australian outback stations, these trucks became icons of reliability. The 70 series, introduced in the mid-1980s, was a no-nonsense workhorse. With stout frames, solid axles, and bulletproof inline-six and four-cylinder diesel engines, they were designed to withstand abuse that would destroy most other trucks. The 80 series pickups followed with more refinement, but kept the same core toughness. Engines like the 1HZ and 1HDT diesels became famous for running 500,000 miles without breaking a sweat. Even gas-powered versions, though less common, could survive decades of service. What set these trucks apart was their ability to thrive in extreme conditions. They weren't just built for suburban hauling. They were designed for oil fields, mining operations, and humanitarian fleets in remote regions. They could run on poor quality fuel, handle brutal heat, and shrug off overloaded beds and rough terrain. Maintenance was straightforward, with simple mechanical systems that local mechanics could repair without specialized tools. In the U.S., Toyota's compact pickups carried the legend, but worldwide, the Land Cruiser pickup became the ultimate survivor. Decades later, many are still working daily in some of the toughest environments imaginable. Their longevity is so respected that many militaries and NGOs still rely on them as frontline vehicles. For sheer indestructibility, the Land Cruiser pickup line takes the crown. It wasn't about style or luxury. It was about building a truck that would outlast anything else, anywhere. And that's exactly what it did. Looking back at these 12 trucks, one thing is clear. Longevity wasn't an accident. The trucks built before 2000 were designed during an era when durability came first, long before electronics and complexity started to take center stage. From Toyota's indestructible compacts to Ford and Chevy's heavy-duty workhorses, these pickups shared common traits: robust frames, simple drivetrains, and engines built to last decades instead of years. Rust and age may eventually claim some of them, but thousands are still proving their worth today, hauling, towing, and working just as they did decades ago. For anyone who believes that trucks should be tools, not toys, these 12 models represent the high-water mark of toughness. They don't just refuse to die, they remind us of an era when durability was baked into every weld, every bolt, and every mile.